Historic twist at the end. Russia is surprised and not bluffing. It's preparing something really big in Ukraine. There has been a significant shift in Russian plans for Ukraine recently, and it's reflected in the Kremlin's rhetoric. The West, as well as many analysts for decades, have shown, if nothing else, an indecent disrespect for Russia's request to provide the necessary security guarantees on its borders after the mistake of signing the Minsk agreement, which NATO used to militarize Ukraine in order to confront Russia. Moscow has changed its approach and becomes much stricter on the issue of security guarantees because the Minsk agreement was a lie, so they could not be trusted anymore. Those who believe that Russia is only seeking territorial gains on the front of the special military operation in Ukraine are short-sighted. Russia urgently demands security guarantees, as it is a state that has received several invasions from the West, so its request is historically fair. Until now, the purpose of the military operation in Ukraine has been demilitarization and denazification of the country. However, a radical change has taken place, which is indicated by the rhetoric of the Russian leadership in recent times, and which is imposed by the refusal of the West to understand Moscow's demand for security on its borders. More characteristic than others was the last statement of Russian President Vladimir Putin. He said, Ukraine has no future. said the Russian leader, finalizing the final goal of the special military operation. For the Ukrainians, everything ends, he said. They no longer have anything. No ideology, no industry, no economic resources. Nothing of theirs exists, Putin said in a conversation with military personnel after the awarding of the Gold Star medals in the Kremlin. One can argue here with Putin on ideology, as the Ukrainian leadership has an aversion to Russia and all things Russian. Most likely, Putin meant the ideology of Ukrainian unity, something that multi-ethnic Ukraine, where 80% of the population thinks Russia, does not have. According to Putin, Ukrainian authorities crossed every line when they declared Russians a foreign body in their country as not having Russian identity. The Russian leader is right. Ukrainian industry has been destroyed. The process of collapse began immediately after the independence of Ukraine. The process became irreversible immediately after the loss of the Russian market. Before the armed conflict with Russia, Ukraine had not built a single cartridge manufacturing plant. The country has neither shipyards nor aircraft. There is no rocket manufacturing, etc. Ukrainian drones are either imported or assembled from imported parts, geopolitical analyst Luba Lulko observes. The Ukrainian leadership is selling out everything. Kiev is ready to sell everything, even the black soil, great for crops that it has. According to Ukrainian sources, the head of the office of President Vladimir Zelensky, Andrei Yermak, flew to the United States to meet with the management of BlackRock, the company that manages Ukrainian assets, where he offered all strategic businesses and land if the company bolsters the regime with a new package of military and economic aid. Attempts to adopt various scenarios of conflict settlement, including that of the Korean model, are pointless. Instead, other solutions are needed, the official spokeswoman of the Russian Foreign Ministry, Maria Zakharova, said on Telegram. And what does she imply? The final plan, Ukraine part of Russia. There is only one solution that guarantees Russia's security, Moscow is now saying behind the lines. What is the solution? Ukraine to become part of the Russian Federation. This is what Russian soldiers say to their Ukrainian prisoners. Long live Ukraine as part of Russia. These are not just words. This is the mood of the people that Putin cannot ignore. There is only one thing that guarantees that another civil war will not break out, Ukraine becoming part of Russia, Lulko points out. on the border of Lviv, which is on the western part of Ukraine. The statement of the Vice President of the Security Council of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, should not go unnoticed. According to Biden, the victory now is the country simply remains and does not disappear from the world map. Borders and sovereignty no longer matter. For example, it will remain within the borders of Lviv, stressed Medvedev in a post on Telegram, who also made special reference to the words of the American president that Ukraine today can defend itself. Please note, simply defend, and only for today, not tomorrow. There are no ifs anymore. If any more attacks, there is no progress regardless of the consequences that this may mean. Like, for example, to defend yourselves within the border of Lviv province with old tanks and a small amount of military equipment and weapons, Medvedev asserts. And as Medvedev says, let's leave the talk of aggression and preemptive response to NATO actions in the old man's mind. Another issue is important, what it says to contain them yourself and not with the help of allies and their guarantees. Moreover, it is inevitable that the Russian armed forces will continue to crush the Ukrainian military. And this I've translated for you from a Greek article. And they're asking for, you see on the maps you have areas of the parts that have taken, Russia took from Ukraine already, and they want that to be a demilitarized zone. Unbridgeable trust deficit. The trust deficit between Moscow and Washington appears to be too great after the 30-year operation of deception of the West, says Russian foreign policy expert Dmitry Suslov, and member of the Valdai Club. He is a respectable internationalist who knows better than anyone about Russia's relations with the West and what decisions the Kremlin will make in terms of strategy. Ukrainian military chief Valery Zaluzhny's admission to British media in early November that Ukraine's counteroffensive was faltering was followed by a series of reports in US and European media about Western officials raising the issue of, and even pushing for peace talks, Zelensky to make a deal. The Russian expert, moreover, places himself on the subject of the negotiations that Washington has recently raised. The objective reasons for the West's interest in peace talks exist because the balance of power in the Ukraine conflict is shifting in favor of Russia. It has already shifted in favor of Russia, and I think that Russian superiority in all aspects at the front will continue to increase in terms of the number of soldiers, in weapons and ammunition, and the ability to deliver and supply those weapons and ammunition to the front, including the newest features of modern warfare such as drones and electronic warfare, he said. Suslov said that thus Russia will continue to strengthen its advantage, and over time this Russian advantage will inevitably translate into major successes at the front. The American elites and geopolitical analysts in the US realize this, and that is why the sudden calls for a truce, some type of diplomatic settlement, or at least a freeze on the conflict. But from the Russian perspective, we don't see a readiness for serious discussions from the Biden administration. Most likely he wants, as the Americans say, to pass the time until the elections and then think about what comes next, said the Russian expert. This is from Banking News, and I've translated this for you from a Greek article. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.